Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Putz here, and today we're going to talk about having a midlife reinvention. And Annie is definitely an expert on that. Um, I'm going to leave the last name to her. We tried some speech therapy a minute ago. So, Annie, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey and where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Karen. This is going to be a fun conversation. So my name is a French one. It's a little bit tricky. So you pronounce it Gaudreault. And it's wonderful. We are new friends. And I love that because I think that what reinvention is all about is what it brings in your life, such as new connections, new experiences. So after a 25 plus career as an executive, working in the branding and design world, I decided that I was going to pursue what had always been in me, which is a little bit of this, love for health and fitness. And I had become an endurance athlete, first running marathons, then I started coaching marathoning to the average person, which I am as well, and then decided to take on a bigger challenge, which is often how this works, and decided to tackle long distance triathlon called Ironman. And that led me on a journey of discovery of the fact that I really love that world and I wanted to make that world part of my day-to-day, including my professional life. So I went back to school in my early 40s and then became a nutritionist. And since then, I've basically dedicated my life to supporting the needs of women in midlife, to show them how aging can be the best part of our life and how it brings incredible opportunities. And I know that that's what we're going to be talking about, is those opportunities.
Well, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think it's something that is really needed because I think many times we're bombarded with this message that, midlife, you're old and you should slow down. You might break a bone. You might hurt something. We get that message you need to be on medicine. We're constantly bombarding with these images of slowing down, of being more careful as you get older, and retirement.
Oh,
That's a whole other ball game, you know.
totally. And
Yeah.
you nailed it, Karen. You nailed it, because let's be honest here. We live in a very ageist society. So there's a obsession with youth, first and foremost, right? All the messages out there, or all the advertising, social media, it's filled with it. Second of all, it's filled with old science, right? I cannot tell you how many times I am asked, why do you still run? Aren't you afraid for your knees? Your knees are going to give up.
Gotta
Right?
wear them out.
Yes, right. And that's an old myth. What we actually know now is the fact that impact exercise is extremely important for women's health because it strengthens our bones. So as estrogen decreases, our bones are a little bit more vulnerable, the bone health. So impact exercise is the best thing you can do for your bone health, right? But still the myths are out there. And that's just a tiny little example of how we are misguided. And the problem is the more you hear that getting older means decay, degeneration, loss of, it's not going to be as fun, you're going to become an old lady, all these things, the more you hear this, the more you start to believe this crap, because it is not true whatsoever.
That's why I love that website, Growing Bolder. so much because Growing Older showed us people in the 80s and the 90s and the 100s who are up there doing track and field and doing all these amazing things. And when you shift and reframe the way the second half of life can be, all of a sudden it just opens up this amazing, passionate energy. And then you start looking forward to, oh, what's the new thing that I can start learning? You have more time,
Yes.
more money, and it's like literally the perfect time on your journey to start exploring what you're really curious about, what you're passionate about.
I absolutely could not agree with you more. And what's really interesting is a long time ago, in the 70s, there was this thing called the happiness curve. It was out of sociologists who did this big piece of research. And this is quantifiable. So it's a, very high quality survey. And basically what it said is that your happiness, if you think about a simple curve, starts very high when you are in late teens, and it progressively decreases. And then what happens, it goes back up. It's got a bit of a U shape. And guess when it starts to go back up? At midlife. 45 onwards, it starts to go back up because of what you just said, right? We start to accumulate wisdom. We understand who we are better. We understand what our values are, right? And we no longer, or maybe not 100%, but we live according to our values, not what our family said it would be, our environment, our community, but based on who we are. So of course it makes sense that we get happier and happier.
I believe it. And I think that's where the value of like a midlife coach comes in.
Yes.
You see this big, broader picture that maybe people who are just starting out on the journey of examining, what am I about? What do I really want? And the other thing that I think is urgent is that we have that, time, that concept of time is that it's more valuable to us now in the second half because we're suddenly aware of where we are on our journey. And then we don't put up with like stuff that we would have put up with 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's a beautiful thing. Now take me back to your first marathon. When you did your first marathon, what was that experience like? What was like the lesson that you gained from it when you crossed the finish line?
Oh my God, I gotta tell you, I was scared out of my mind. It takes about 6 months to train for a marathon or longer, depending on, where you start from. So let's say 6 to 9 months. So it's a lot of time that you have to think about that big day, right? Like, oh my God, the race. And my race was in Washington, D.C., is the Marine Corps Marathon. So it is entirely staffed with this beautiful, gorgeous, strong Marines, men and women that serve and protect and are these beautiful elite athletes themselves. Of course, they're very skilled and very strong. So it's an incredible experience. It was the hottest day. It was hard. The race day was hard because the sun was beaming. We were like so overheated. But the incredible moment is not necessarily right after you cross the finish line, but as after you're done, you go sit on the benches where you see the other runners cross, come and finish, and you can clap for them. And I remember clearly sitting there thinking, Annie, you did this. Wow. You ran 42 kilometers, hot or not. It could have been raining, it could have been windy, it could have been cold. And you have this in you. And I think the biggest realization in the moment is, I think that until you do it, you're not even sure that you can. But you do. You do. And you cross a finish line and it's a bit like, wow, you've been able to do this. And it was always in me. It was always in me. A lot of the thoughts and the beliefs and how you grew up and all of these things that you have heard all your life, right? All these doubts that are put in you. You know, I grew up in an environment that was quite challenging and not very nurturing. So I had a lot of self-doubts and I had a lot of confidence issues. And I could not believe that I had been able to do this. So it was nothing short of transformative. And not just in that moment, but the months later. And I have a great story for you.
Why do you think that impact is so important?
And whether you run a marathon or you do something else that really challenges you, I think is the idea. But I will share this story with you. So when I ran my marathon, it was with a large group of women. There were a lot of us doing our first marathon. And so there was a big celebration organized a few months later to celebrate us all. And they invited a few women to come and speak at the front to share their experience. And there's this little woman that came up on the stage and she said, and it was very emotional. And she said, you know, the thing that was the most amazing thing for me is that since I've come back, I've been a bookkeeper for 20 years. And for the first time in 10 years, I've had the courage to increase my rates. And that is because of the marathon. The marathon is an empowering personal experience, right? It gives you wings. You grow wings because it shows you, if I can run a marathon, imagine all the other things I've been afraid of doing because, again, of the little, thoughts.
Potential.
Yes.
All of a sudden you start to wonder, what else can I do? Is
Exactly.
that what led to the triathlon?
Yes. Because I would have never tackled Ironman triathlon if I had not understood the power of my experience with marathoning. For
and how does
sure.
That triathlon compare to the marathon? Big difference?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a marathon is 26.2 miles and an Ironman, you swim 2 miles, you bike 120 miles, and then you run the 26 miles, right? So it's a very different.
What's that like?
Well, but the principles are the same, Karen, and that's where it's really incredible, right? Because it all comes down to the same formula. Making a plan, right? Then making sure that you are well supported. So in that case, it was, do I have a coach? And then do I have a training group, right? Because I cannot do this alone. That's not going to happen, right? So I had a little swim group that I could train with and a swim coach. And then we had an overall triathlon group. And then I met with them. Right? And then we talked, and then we cried together, and we celebrated together, and we got frustrated together. But I had the support, right? And then there was a plan. I did not get ready in a day, right? It took a year. But if you think about it, it is the same for everything that is big that we need to tackle in life, right? Nothing is done overnight. You need a plan and you need support because it's going to get tough and there will be some hard days, right? Some days were easy. And then there's some days where I wanted to come home and cry.
I believe that. So, let me ask you this. The word passion.
Yeah.
When you think of the word passion, what does it mean to you? And how do you define it?
The closest thing I can think of is almost a feeling. It's like it's something that is burning up inside of me. It's something that I cannot ignore, something that is constantly there, right? It's like health and wellness for me is a passion, and my wheels are always turning about it. I deeply, deeply believe in its benefits, right? So for me, that's what passion, I don't know if that's the right definition, but it fuels me. It's a strong source of energy. And I think that it carries me through the doubts. It carries me through the tough days.
I love that.
Right? And it gives me purpose.
Mm-hmm. See, I've interviewed over 200 people for the book. I wrote a book called Unwrapping Your Passion, and 200 different definitions of it.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of it, because passion is personal.
Yeah. Oh, love that.
Yeah, once you identify that energy, it becomes fuel for so many areas of your life. So I just love that. Now, what is something big that you want to do in your lifetime that if you didn't do that one thing, what would it be?
I think it is to be on massive stages. This is my big dream, to be on the huge stages. I'm talking about hundreds and thousands of people. That's because I believe in the message that I have, and I believe in the story that I have. Therefore, I don't want this to stay with me. The purpose is to help others in their journey, so that their journey is amazing and their journey is as big as people want it to be, right? It is a they call it, the big hairy goal. It's very scary, and sometimes I do have a little bit of like imposter syndrome. Who do you think you are?
We all do, because to go from beginner to master, you have to go through the suffering.
Yes.
So the willingness to
Yes.
learn the dirty parts of it, the down parts of it, and many people give up.
Yes.
Before they get to the victory, before they get to the top, before they achieve the goal, so many people get in their minds and say, who are you to do this? Who are you not to do this? If you have an idea, a dream, or something in your head, you were meant to do that. You were meant to journey in that way.
Yes. So true. So true. So that's the big vision, the big goal. That's what I'm working towards all the time, little by little. And one thing Ironman or marathon training teaches you is that pain and suffering is not going to kill you. It's uncomfortable.
Pain and suffering. We're afraid of it. We avoid it.
Yes.
Even when it is good for us, we avoid it.
Yes.
Now, if somebody wanted to reach out and work with you, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Sure. So if you're a woman in midlife and really looking to, upgrade your health and even prevent, right? And take care of yourself before there's any damage done. Very easy. All the contact information is on my website, which is VEEV.ca, which is VEEV.ca. Very simple. And I really encourage people to come to it, first of all, because I have lots of great resources that are really applicable for people. You can download a whole bunch of guides there, nutrition and lifestyle related. And every week I send out really useful information for women at midlife that they can apply immediately, right? Great resources, great books, things that I see out there, and I love to share and I love to give, because I believe that that's the only way to be in this earth. So really encourage anybody, and then contact me. My little contact information is there too.
Check out Annie's link below. And definitely
Yes, don't be shy. I love to hear feedback as well. If you have questions or, something you need to know about, I'm here.
So to wrap us up for this, actually I have two questions through my mind. Number one is, do you have a mentor that stands out in your life that taught you something very transformational?
I think I was raised partially by my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, and she was she was a feminist, even though she did not know it. But more importantly, she was somebody who had great wisdom and really inspired me to be my own person. And she was incredibly strong, and I would say that she was a great mentor, and probably doesn't know it, but she was.
I think that there's so many leaders out there who don't know that they're leading and, transforming us. So my last question is this one. When you look back on your life, what is a life lesson that stands out for you that you would love to share here?
I love to share that I'm a very late bloomer in life. The wisdom that came to me really came after blowing through my 20s and my 30s, being on autopilot and not at all what we call now being authentic. I lived to avoid my pain, and I lived to basically impress others. And it was, there were some successes in that, but it was a very empty, spiritually speaking, a very empty life, and emotionally speaking as well. So I think that if I'm going to answer your question properly, I would highly recommend to stop to be in the doing mode and start to be in the being mode. And took me a long, long time to understand that.
I think that's the wisdom along the journey, is discovering, who you are, what you're about, what your values are, what's important to you, and that comes with time.
Very much so.
Awareness to be able to look within. Wow. So I so enjoyed all the wisdom that you shared in here today, and I really thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And you are a beautiful, curious mind, and which is why you're a phenomenal coach, obviously. And thank you for creating that gorgeous space. That
our paths cross.
Me too. Me too. Thank you.